call our July 10th Scott County Fiscal Court meeting to order. I'd like the record to reflect that we are meeting in person. However, myself and Magistrate Bill Burke are joining by Zoom. We also would like to welcome a couple guests that will be willing to answer any questions that anyone on the court might have related to an item on the agenda for the Bluegrass Regional Radio Network. Chris Israel and Dustin Heiser are joining us via Zoom as well. I'd like to ask the court to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance before we call the roll. So if you want to do that, with Dwayne Ellison, would you lead us, please?
Yep. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all.
Joe LeBroyles is here, just so you know.
I'd like to ask Stacy Hamilton to call the roll.
Mr. Hostetler? Mr. Lyons?
Here.
Mr. Wallace? Mr. Corman?
Present.
Mr. Ellison?
Here.
Mr. Burke?
Here.
Mr. Livingston?
Here.
Mr. Marshall?
Here.
Judge Covington?
Present. With that said, we'll move to our next item on the agenda. And I will, before we do that, make note that we have made this meeting open to the public, but with the COVID-19 and the restrictions related to social distancing, we restricted the public, the number of public that could attend at about 19, and we've actually spread our chairs out in the court and marked off chairs that are available for seating and not for seating. So just trying to do our best to follow guidelines. And this meeting is being streamed live on the Scott County Fiscal Court YouTube channel, so anyone can view this meeting as well. With that said, I will move to number 4 on our agenda, the minutes from our last meeting. Those minutes were presented to you in your packet. Are there any questions or comments related to the minutes as they were presented?
Make a motion, Judge.
I have a motion from David Livingston. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Alvin Lyons. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion to approve the minutes passes. Next, we have no transfers, so we will skip that for number 5. We will go down to number 6. Hand checks as presented in your packet. Are there any questions or comments related to bills and hand checks as presented? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
So moved.
So moved from Mr. Bill Burke. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Kelly Corman. Any other questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Judge, can I
Any
ask?
opposed?
Sorry. Can I ask a question real quick? Thinking about this
Yes, sir.
on bills, do we need to come by Stacy's office to sign any forms for the bills?
No, since we have the new system, you don't have to do that, and the auditors, we checked with them and it is not required.
Okay, thank you.
You should have, no, and if you don't, let me know.
Nope, I do. I just wanted to make sure. I'm just so used to doing that over the years.
Okay.
Any other questions? We have a first and a second, so all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Moves us down, going to add bills and handshakes now. fees that were presented. I'd like the record to reflect that the clerk's office, fees were, submitted of $282,820.67. Please have that reflected in the record. The sheriff, submitted fees of $40,008.15. Please have the record reflect that submission. That'll move us down to number 7 on the road department. New hire, I believe, J.R. Brandenburg is in attendance and will, address the court in this manner.
Good morning, Judge, members of the court. I have a replacement hire. Let me find it here. Would be Dudley Jones as an equipment operator laborer. And Dudley brings several years of experience. He has a CDL license, quite experienced in several pieces of equipment in operation. And we would like to start him out at $16.11 per hour with benefits. He's replacing a guy I lost a couple of months ago when Jeff Mudrack and myself done interviews, did a quite detailed background on Dudley, and I think he'll be a big asset to us.
Are there any other questions or comments for Mr. Brandenburg in regards to this recommendation?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Glad we approve that recommendation. Thank you, Mark. We'll move next to ask Chief Fuller to address the court in regards to a fire department new hire. Chief Fuller, would you please address the court with the recommendation?
Judge Covington, members of the court, yes, we have a replacement hire. Her name is contingent on Fiscal coming back okay, but we wanted to try to move it through so yeah, we could get on the 20th. Her name is Andrea Gully. She's satisfied all her state tests. She's CPAT certified. She's done everything she needs to do for the state. And her starting rate would be $10.50 an hour. She would also be our first professional female firefighter in Scott County. Kind of a
That recommendation, I'm excited to have, to add a female qualified candidate to the role, and find it, that's a great recommendation. What questions or comments does anyone on the board have for Chief Fuller?
I guess the only question is not about her in particular, but where does this put you as far as staffing?
that fills us back
Fills
up.
all-
We just
okay.
lost a lieutenant here to retirement. So yeah, that brings us back to whole.
Okay.
I'll make a motion.
Motion from Mr. Ellison. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Corman. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes to approve the recommendation for Andrea Gully. Appreciate that, Chief Fuller and everyone else that worked on that as well. Next, I'd like to ask, is Janelle Boyles in it?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to ask him to address the court in regards to this request, but I'll give background to everybody. As I shared in the email last week or earlier this week, Budget Committee discussed this, and we're in agreement, but I never did nail it down earlier, so that's why we're addressing it now. But the Budget Committee is in support of recommending one trainer coordinator stipend of $800 annually, and then 5 trainer positions with a stipend of $600 annually. And we discussed that, looked at it, and as a committee, could recommend that. And then I wanted to invite Joe Broyles just to come and present any additional information that he would like to share with the court.
Okay, thank you, Judge. Good morning, magistrates. I just wanted to take a couple of minutes here and let you know how critical training is down at the jail. As you can imagine, in our position down there, keeping the inmates safe and keeping the staff safe as well is our utmost priority, and training goes to the heart of that, honestly. It also is, it reflects on us not, or having the best chance of not getting into legal entanglements. So training is super important, and people in general, but certainly the staff at the jail, are going to react the way they train. So these positions are extremely important to the jail. Since I've been the jailer, I've worked hard to improve the training down at the jail, make it more professional, improve the training, expand the training, because I do feel like the staff is going to react the way they are trained, especially in high stress situations. So I've worked hard to expand the training, increase the professionalism, attract good quality people to those training positions. And in doing that, I think we get better training. Now, before the salary survey, we were mildly compensating these individuals for doing this training, for taking on this additional work, the additional effort, and certainly the liability that they take on. You know, they can train somebody and they can even leave the jail, but they essentially are still in the chain of liability because they trained somebody on how to react and how to handle situations down there. So this training is something that can follow the trainers for years to come. And so based on the fact that they're putting in extra effort, based on the fact that they're putting in extra time, and that additional liability that they're incurring, I felt like it was very fair to offer them some kind of mild compensation for that effort. Previously, before the salary survey, they were getting a 20-cent an hour bump on their pay, and then the training coordinator would get an additional 20 cents. Now, the training coordinator position, that's a position that I actually created when I became the jailer, and the reason is, when I got in, we had just gone through a Department of Corrections inspection, and we actually got gigged by the Department of Corrections for not having all of our training done. So being gigged by the Department of Corrections is important and should get our attention, but it's even more important to me having staff that are not meeting their minimum requirements every year they're training. That liability-wise, I think that's really putting us out there liability-wise. So what we did was create a training coordinator position to coordinate all this training, to make sure that they're getting their training every year. So what I had asked and discussed with the judge and the financial committee is either a 20-cent or either some kind of raise for them or some kind of stipend. And I think a stipend is what they had, certainly what they leaned towards and what they preferred. And it is asking for a training coordinator stipend annually of $800 a year, and then trainer stipends of $600 a year. So I just want to give you a brief background on why I was asking for this, where it came from.
And for the court and for the public, the reason we looked at a stipend as opposed to an hourly bump is because if that training coordinator or the trainers decided at some point, I don't want to do this anymore, then it would be only right, but it would be punitive to take that money back away from them. So offering the stipend is a better, we felt from the financial committee with Alvin and the judge and Michelle and everybody, that was the better option to do it that way. So if you had someone come in to do it in the future, and someone move out of that position.
And I did initially tell the financial committee that we had 5 trainers. We actually have 7. I don't want to you all to feel like I'm springing something on you in the middle of a meeting. We can get by with 5 trainers this year if that's what you want to approve. Our SOPs say that we're approved for 7 trainers. So if we want to come back and visit that later and just fund 5 trainers this year, that's fine. I've got a couple of positions open for trainer, and I'll leave those empty until next year when we can revisit it. But my initial request was for 5 training position stipends and 1 training coordinator stipend.
Are those positions, I know they're in your SOPs, but are they in the county's chart of positions? Number of employees or
Well, they're still employees. They're the same
right,
employees
but
at the
I'm
jail.
wondering, have we ever put that in a form of,
I don't remember seeing it, but
Okay.
I'm not sure. It's,
David, we'll check with Jeff, and then I'll talk to you about exactly what you're talking about in regards to organizational chart. Is that what you're referring to?
yes, sir.
and one other point of clarification, these folks, these duties are on top of their duties as a deputy. It's an additional duty on top of their normal role.
Yes, sir, Mr. Lyons. These are in addition to their regular duties as a deputy.
I guess my question is, do you need those other two right now? I mean,
You know, I think we could get by with, I mean, if you wanted to meet me in the middle, I'd really appreciate it. It would give me a little breathing room down there. If you wanted to go with 6, that would be fantastic. I don't want the financial committee or the judge to think that, hey, I've sprung this on you here in the meeting. If you just want to approve 5, I can get by. 6 would give me some breathing space, though, as far as the trainers.
I mean, I totally agree that the training is the most important thing that you have down there with your folks, and if that's what it takes, for us to have a jail that doesn't have issues, and we, don't get on the news and everybody's safe, then that's what we need to have. And that's worth $600 a year, to me.
I think that's our best chance of not getting on the news. No guarantees. But, if I may just also mention here, you might be thinking that the sheriff's office does training too, and they do some training of their officers, but for their initial academy, their initial training, they go to a 6-month academy in Richmond.
Right.
We do all of our own in-house training because there is no state academy for corrections officers. In addition to the annual in-service training, the firearms training, and everything they are required to keep up with on an annual basis, we have to do all the initial training. So all of the training liability is literally on us.
Question there is, has it stopped, has your training been stopped like the academies have been stopped? I guess they started back up, but have you all been able to continue on?
So we put through a initial academy, if you want to call it that. We did the initial training of some new hires that you all approved about probably 2 months ago, but that's the only training we've done. Everything else is on hold right now.
What other questions does anyone have in regards to the recommendation, and does anyone want to make a motion or such?
Judge, I move we approve the 6 trainer positions.
I'll second it.
We have a motion to approve 1 training coordinator and 6 training stipends. And we have a second from Dwayne
Judge.
Ellison.
Judge.
Any other questions or comments?
It was 1 coordinator and 5.
All those in favor?
Wait.
It was one.
I'm sorry?
The initial request, Mr. Lyons, was 1 trainer 5 trainers and 1 coordinator.
Okay.
And we're authorized for 7 trainers
Okay.
down at the jail. So I was just asking if y'all could meet me in the middle, that would be great. If not, I understand that too, because that's not what we initially discussed. 5 trainers is what we initially discussed, and 1 training coordinator.
I'm willing to go with the 1 coordinator and 6 trainers myself.
That's fine. I just wanted to clarify, make sure everybody.
Yeah.
So to make sure I'm correct, the motion is for 1 training coordinator and 6 training stipends for trainers. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, and we have a motion and a second. Any other questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, General Broyles, as well. Next item on the agenda, I shared an email back on July 2nd that with competition starting at Crossing Park with youth softball and baseball, that we needed to consider creating a temporary park maintenance position. And it's my recommendation that we create 2 positions, and max hours between the 2 positions could be up to 30 hours a week. That would be what I would foresee, going on unless something crazy happened, and I don't think that would, so. And in consultation with Jeff Mudrack, the recommendation would be that the rate of pay for these positions would be $12 per hour. I think they're greatly needed, especially with competition starting. We only have one staff member out there, Tim Tevis, and it's needed to help with daily maintenance, and then also the additional COVID-19, just spraying down all the high-touch surfaces and trying to work through that issue. But really, truthfully, without COVID-19, we would still need additional help, and I value any comments from anybody or questions.
Judge, would it be seasonal or temporary? How do we refer to that in the motion?
I called it temporary seasonal. They would work through when we stopped having competition this fall at the park. And Bill Burke had a question.
Judge, is there ever going to be a time when we turn this park over to Parks and Recreation, or is this going to be ours in perpetuity?
I wouldn't comment on something that would ever be, something forever, but for the time being, my preference is that we continue to operate as is and try to get it, going as we had planned previously. We've not really had an opportunity because of COVID-19 to get it going.
Do the parks do any of the maintenance on the field, or is it just us now?
I'm sorry, Kelly, could you repeat?
Does the Parks and Rec, do they do any maintenance on the field currently, or anything out there?
Zero.
Okay. And I guess they don't have the manpower to help us.
No, they only hired 2 or 3 seasonal maintenance positions because of everything being kind of cut back. I made that phone call, and that was not a possibility.
Judge, real quick, I was going to follow up on Kelly's question, is that I think having our own a couple of seasonal employees that report to Tim or JR or however it works would work better, as opposed to somebody from a different department that they're not really reporting to our guy.
I just didn't know from an equipment standpoint, don't the parks have quite a bit of equipment or do we?
No, if you go to the baseball fields here in town, or if you go to the softball fields here in town, the leagues themselves pretty much own all their equipment and really take care of the infields and all that. The parks may mow, but a lot of times the leagues do all the mowing themselves, or weed eating and
So is
preparing of the fields.
the road department doing it now?
Tim actually needs the help. We assist
Yeah.
him when needed. We mow the big open areas and with our equipment and everything, but Tim actually needs the help, and we'll continue to assist anyway.
But it's your all's equipment right now, I assume that's.
Now, there's equipment for the fields, for the fields themselves. He's got a finish mower and a drag and all that to be able to do all that work
Yeah, okay.
inside the park, and then they do all the green space around.
Gotcha.
With their big bat wings and stuff.
I think a lot of this help is more in cleaning restrooms and
Yeah.
sanitation.
Trash.
And stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because you can't just, it's all day long. Tim cannot be there 80 to 120 hours a week, especially now that the youth leagues are playing over there too. Both baseball has played over there and practiced over there a lot, the youth leagues. They're not horrible about trashing the place, but still, it's got.
And I don't disagree with that. I know, just
Somebody does.
trying to get educated, like even the leagues,
Yeah.
if they had volunteers that could come in and help too.
Yeah, and they do.
Yeah, I just,
Baseball,
having.
softball leagues are actually really, really good about doing as much as they humanly can.
Yeah.
And
I
they
think
pay for a lot of the stuff that does happen.
all the upgrades, they pay for a lot of upgrades at their own.
Because a lot of times they
Several
used to
thousand.
prepare their own field, right?
Yeah. I think though, with this facility, it's the intent was to keep it at a maximum presentation to be able to use to bring in tournaments and all that. And I think that having moms and dads working on the fields each week, you might end up with different people every week, and they don't know what they're doing entirely, and we end up in a scenario where they end up in a bad shape, bad condition.
Well, with the COVID issue too, I mean, having mom and dad sanitizing things, just not, you know, that's not gonna be able to be done.
The other part of this is, you know, the court, wants to, creation of these, temporary seasonal positions. I've been told that there's precedent, and it's happened in the past, where the court does not have to approve the actual person that is placed into this temporary seasonal position, that the judge can actually authorize that, and we don't have to wait until July 23rd to put these folks to work, or whoever it might be. That's what's been shared with me. Any questions or comments about that? Rand, you have any comment in regards to that?
No, I think that's right.
Okay. Is there any other questions, or would there be a motion to approve what's been recommended?
Joe Pat,
Stacy, go ahead.
just for the record, for the minutes, it'll be seasonal, not temporary. There's a pretty big difference for personnel.
Okay, so seasonal.
Yes.
Okay. Bill Burke,
I'll make that motion, Josh.
thank you, Bill. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Dwayne. Any other questions or comments? All those, please say aye.
Aye.
I don't want us to have to wait till the 23rd. I'd like you to go ahead and fill these as soon as possible.
That's what, I appreciate that, Bill. Okay. All those in favor? Aye, please. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you all. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Rand Marshall. And he has a resolution prepared to read in relationship to the Bluegrass Regional Radio Network Interlocal Agreement. Let me give you a little bit more background. Earlier this week, the Georgetown City Council and the Scott Fiscal Court Interlocal Committee met and discussed the proposed interlocal agreement. The interlocal committee voted to approve the recommendation to both the full court and the city council. So that's why we are here today, to bring this up to the full court's consideration. I appreciate Chris Israel and Dustin Heiser being in attendance by Zoom. You can see them, you can ask any questions that you might have before Rand reads the resolution. We also have, I believe, Mike Hennigan in the audience with us as well, that has worked very closely on this, and he can help answer any questions for anyone before we go forward. So before Rand gets into reading the resolution, does anyone have any questions related to the Bluegrass Regional Radio Network proposal? And then we'll go from there.
Judge, we do have Chief Fuller and Sheriff Hampton here, and I would just like to have them give us their, and I don't know if Jailer Broyles, will you all be on this radio system?
Yes.
I'd just like to have your all's comments about advantages. Do you see any reason, any disadvantages, advantages for you all? You all are going to be the primary users, so.
I can tell you from the jail standpoint, Mr. Lyons, it's going to be a lot safer system for us. The radio system that we have is a closed system, so dispatch does not hear any of our communications at all. And even in the facility, in the jail, we have some dead spots. And I've worked on it since I've been in there. We've installed a repeater in the facility, and we still have dead spots. With the new system, they came down and tested it throughout the facility, clear as a bell. The other problem with our current system is the radio communication. Because it's a smaller system, it only reaches, when our deputies have to leave the facility, it only reaches a certain distance away from the facility, and it is not very far at all. So when they go to the hospital on a transport, or into Lexington on a transport, or a doctor's appointment with an inmate, or even when they're out working in the community with the inmates, unfortunately, I guess I can say it now since we're switching over to this system, but they have not always had radio communication. And as you know, you don't always have cell phone communication. So this is a big help for the jail.
Alvin, you had asked that question earlier to me. I did call Chief Fuller, and Chief Fuller, he's right there. I'll let him share, but Chief Fuller had no reservations. I'll let Chief Fuller speak for himself.
No, I mean, we really don't have any issues. It doesn't really affect us either way. The only thing that we had all been, in the whole group and committee had been not for early on was getting rid or splitting up these cores. As long as it's not gonna be something that's gonna hurt us down the road, we're fine with it.
Same, we've got like one dead spot in the county, Myers Branch area, but other than that, it's been working great.
Mike Kennigan, could you speak to, how you feel about this proposal for the regional radio network?
Yeah, absolutely in favor of the regional radio network. Jailer Broyles talked about doing transports outside of the agency, but if we were to be part of the Bluegrass Regional Radio Network, they could transport essentially all the way to London and still be talking to the same dispatcher. So it would definitely be an asset to our community to be part of this and be tied in with the UK and Madison County in order to provide a large radio coverage area.
Okay. What questions does anyone have for our colleague from Madison County or from Mike Kennigan? Any other questions? Is there a motion to
Judge-
approve the proposal after, we need to read the resolution.
Well,
I'm
I was
sorry.
just gonna say real quick, just for the public's knowledge, in case they don't go back and watch the prior meeting, is that this doesn't add any additional cost to our court. It actually broadens our radio capabilities for all our first responders and helps us and some of our fellow government entities out, and it does not add any cost to our bottom line.
And Chris or Dustin, would you all like to make any comment before the resolution read?
Yeah, Judge, I'd just like to say thank you to your team for working with us through this whole project. Certainly been very interesting trying to work through it. Especially thank you, I think it was Wednesday, to the group that met with us to kind of fine tune the interlocal a little bit to kind of look out for everybody's best interest. So we were able to make some modifications to that interlocal that actually will help everybody. It provides a little more detailed information as to why things are the way they are, such as the dividend, and why we're creating it. So I appreciate your team and their feedback, and this has been an exciting project, and I look forward to getting started with it.
Great.
Same here, Judge. I thank you to you and the fiscal court and the team. I think this project has some immense future capabilities, and I think it's going to put all the communities in the right place for a long time ahead. Thank you.
Thank you all for your help and leadership on the venture. So with that said, I think the appropriate thing now, unless there's any other questions, is to ask Rand to read the resolution.
Scott County Fiscal Court, Resolution 20-12, a resolution approving an interlocal agreement among the City of Georgetown, Scott County Fiscal Court, Madison County Fiscal Court, and the University of Kentucky for the creation of the Bluegrass Regional Radio Network and authorizing the judge executive to sign all relevant documents. Whereas the Scott County Fiscal Court is considered an interlocal agreement among the City of Georgetown, Scott County Fiscal Court, Madison County Fiscal Court, and the University of Kentucky for the creation of the Bluegrass Regional Radio Network. Whereas the Fiscal Court wishes to approve the agreement and authorize the judge executive to execute the agreement, and whereas KRS 65.240 requires the authorization to be memorialized by ordinance or resolution, now therefore be it resolved by the Scott County Fiscal Court, Section 1, that the interlocal agreement among the City of Georgetown, Scott County Fiscal Court, Madison County Fiscal Court, and the University of Kentucky creating the Bluegrass Regional Radio Network is hereby approved in substantially the same form as the attached agreement. Section 2, that the judge executive is authorized to execute the interlocal agreement and any relevant documents on behalf of the county. Approved, assuming you do, this 10th day of July 2020.
Any other questions?
Motion to approve.
Motion from Kelly Corman, is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Alvin Lyons. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Approval of the regional radio network, local agreement. Very happy to move this forward, and Chris, Dustin, thank you all for your time this morning as well.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Now that moves to the next one. This one's of great interest to me, and I think you all will be as well. Rand can explain it and share the details. So I'll ask Rand Marshall to do that at this time.
As you probably know, we are part of a class action suit in opioid litigation for the damages that the county has suffered. That's been ongoing, I think it's been over a year now. One of the big defendants, Purdue, has filed bankruptcy, so now our claims are being submitted to the bankruptcy court. Our attorneys have made a valuation of our claims. I believe that's based on information we supplied. We had a series of interrogatories we had to answer, and we did. They've taken that and made these valuations. Now, I'd love to tell you we're going to get these amounts I'm about to say, but that I'm sure is not quite likely.
Now, is that the total group amount, or is that Scott County specific?
This is Scott County only.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe the city of Georgetown's involved, and I think the
Right.
school system. And I believe we looked at what their claims were valued at, and which were less than ours, which I guess makes sense. But anyway, they have valued our claims that will be submitted to the bankruptcy court for consideration as follows. For the period 2003 through June of this year, $18,219,169. And then future damages and abatement costs from July 2020 through 2040 in the amount of $58,351,466. That total is $76,570,635. So again, that's the minimum amount of our claim that we're going to assert to the bankruptcy court. We don't have to do anything if we're okay with those. And if you're like me, we'll take that. But I just wanted to bring it to your attention in case you had any questions, concerns, or comments. I'm sure this is going to be ongoing. My understanding is, from what they sent us, Purdue and others are going to put up billions of dollars into this fund, so there will be money. But there are hundreds, I think, of plaintiffs, so a lot of people, a lot of entities divide the money among. But at any rate, at some point, I think we'll get something. I'm sure it won't be anywhere near that
Not
much.
to mention the attorney's fees.
Not to mention, yes. Yeah, they even sound expensive. The name of the firm is Levin, Pampantonio, Thomas, Mitchell, Rafferty, and Proctor. They're out of Pensacola, but they're handling this for us. So I just wanted to give you an update, give you those amounts, and we can dream, I guess.
Can I ask a question real quick? In their bankruptcy, because I don't always understand all the different sections and titles and all that in bankruptcy, are they filing for protection, or are they dissolving?
I believe they're dissolving, and I'm sure you have in bankruptcy secured creditors and unsecured. Secured means you've got some kind of collateral. I've got to assume they have some secured creditors. I have no idea how many or how much money we're talking about there, but I'm sure they'll be paid first, and then I'm sure all the plaintiffs in this lawsuit are unsecured, so we're going to get what's left. So in my mind, at this point, it's impossible to say how much this will mean for us. I think it'll be something, but I mean, if it paid for the Shepherd's House program, that would be, a plus in my mind.
What questions or comments does anyone have? And then Rand, do we need a motion to approve that valuation claim?
Well, per the letter from the law firm, they said you don't need to do anything unless you have a problem with this. So I don't think we have to. I mean, if someone is inclined to say, yeah, we're okay with those valuations, I think that's fine. I don't think there's a problem with that.
So are there any other questions? Otherwise, then, if there's no other questions, I think we've done our due diligence and addressed it and can, all right, thank you all on that matter. With that said, we'll move to item number 13. On 7/23, our regularly scheduled meeting is for 7 p.m. And I mentioned in an email earlier that I might have a conflict with the 7 p.m. time, and it's thrown out 9 a.m. However, Magistrate Alvin Lyons would have a conflict with 9 a.m., but could go later in the day, say 4 o'clock. If we did move it to 4 o'clock, I can still navigate what I'm doing, make it work. Does anybody have any other comments on that? And would anyone entertain a motion to possibly move that 7 p.m. meeting till 4 o'clock on the 23rd?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second. David.
You got a second from Mr. Livingston? And any other comments or questions there? All those in favor of changing 7:23 to 4 p.m., say aye.
Aye.
All right, any opposed? We'll move that to 4 p.m. on this 23rd. And that way, you don't have any known conflicts. On 14, we can discuss any new business. I have one item. I shared this via email. Email came to me yesterday related to a joint appointee to the Planning Commission. That's Mr. James Stone. Mr. Stone would like to be reappointed to serve another term. And Mr. Stone is a lifetime farmer here in Scott County. Grew up in the Sadieville area. Licensed auctioneer for 32 years. And, currently not auctioneering. He farms here in Georgetown. And, you know, as I've said, he's been serving already. He's been serving as well as on the Planning Commission Executive Committee as well. So he is a joint appointee and can be reappointed. Any questions or comments? Bill Burke.
I'll make that motion, Judge, that we accept this guy.
Yes, sir. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Lyons. Any other questions? All those in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Appreciate that. Does any court member have any new business? I will share, we received an email and a phone call from a citizen, Mr. Stephen Glass, and he would like the court to take up and consider in the future sometime mandatory trash collection and ordinance related to that. I did have a conversation with him, and he sent that email in, so I'm sharing that, and we'll gather some data and share that with the court, and if the court wants to take it up, then we can move it forward. Any questions or comments related to that public comment?
I will say that we've been dealing with that a little bit more lately, and I had to speak with Public Works in the city of Georgetown. They've had a lot of extra dumping, it seems like lately, in different places and cleanup areas. So I don't know where it's coming from, but we've had a lot of that going on.
Yeah. Well, we'll gather some data. Jared Holland will lead us on that, and we'll bring it back to the court in the future. Just wanted to share that piece of public comment that was made in the conversation that we had. Any other questions or comments?
I was going to ask Mr. Burrow, do we have any idea when you could get back to going? I hate relying on you guys to pick up trash. I mean, our community should pick up our own trash, but is there any update on when you guys can get back at it?
Well, I agree with you, but I'm glad that we also can provide that
Right.
service to the community and get the inmates out there working. The Department of Corrections has come out with, in the last, maybe the last week or week and a half, has come out with a protocol that they said we can follow in developing our own procedures to start the inmate work programs again. So we're working on that right now at the jail. They have an outline of the protocols that they would like for us to follow.
Okay.
We're utilizing that as a template to develop our own. Once we come up with our own protocols, then we have to send that to our local health department
Dr. Miller.
to get it approved, right? And then if the health department signs off on it, then we can send it to the Department of Corrections to be approved. So at least there's a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. Before 2 weeks ago, they weren't even discussing inmates going back out. Now they're kind of cracking the door open, so we're going to give it a shot. And if we get denied, by Dr. Miller over at the health department, or if it makes it over to DOC and it gets denied, we'll take another bite at the apple and try it again. We'll keep working at it until we can get back out there. I'm personally probably going to be comfortable as long as we can set up some very tight restrictions. And, you know, when you're talking about litter pickup or even helping out Park and Recreation with mowing or weed eating or some of this outdoor work that they need help with, the inmates are not around members of the community. They're not really around anybody other than the other inmates that they're already around. So that's why I'm comfortable with this scenario. Now, getting them out around other members of the community with some of the other entities that we work for, I'm not comfortable with that, but doing certainly litter pickup and some help with Park and Recreation, I'd be for. So I think we're moving in the right direction. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks, maybe by the next fiscal court meeting, I can give you an update, Mr. Ellison, and tell you where we stand with it, okay?
That's good. I have a neighbor that picks up Champion Way now because you're all not, so he's picking it up and then I take it to the dumpster.
Well, we'll try to provide some relief to him as soon as we can.
I appreciate him doing it.
Yes, sir.
Judge Captain, I got a comment.
Jared, if you could hold Bill Burke.
I was, my wife's got the sun catcher hanging in the window, reflecting off my nose.
Okay. Jared, go ahead, Jared, on.
Yeah, I just wanted to let Gerald Broyles know that any type of items that he needs for litter pickup, just a reminder that I do have litter abatement money from the state that can help offset some costs.
Okay, thank you.
One last item, J.R. Brandenburg's been working a lot, getting together the required documentation to move us forward on the emergency repair down in Sadieville Road. JR's right there. I'd like to ask JR to share with the court where we're at on that documentation and process on the emergency repair.
Thank you, Judge. We discussed this a few weeks ago and made y'all aware of the road sliding given away at Sadieville, off Hinton Sadieville Road. Lost probably 3 foot of the road. We have got 2 estimates. Hinkle Environmental has done work before with us, $120,955, and they're prepared to start on July the 20th with everybody's approval. And we're going to have to temporarily close down Hinton Sadieville Road while they're working. They're going to drill 52 holes and put 50-foot pylons down into the bedrock and stabilize the creek bank, and then we build it back up. And the truck has to set crossways along the road, and it's going to be impossible to move out every time a car comes through. So they're proposing to shut down Hinton Sadieville Road from 8 a.m. until 6 p.m. For about a week while they're getting all this drilled and everything. So we'll install signage at each end of the road. It'll inconvenience people a little bit, but we'll have it open from 6 p.m. of the night till 8 a.m. of the next morning for traffic to flow through. And love to go ahead and move forward with this. All the paperwork for the emergency funding request has been sent to the state and everything, so everything's in place. Of course, everything's kind of slow with the state right now, but everything's in place. So we would love to start on Monday, July the 20th, and get this road fixed.
Did you say you had 2 bids?
Yes,
Oh, okay. What was the other one?
it was $210,000.
Are they doing it with gold?
We just done that.
Yeah, right.
Make sure we were all in line, and on an emergency
Sounds like you're in
funding,
line all right with you.
we are.
Yeah, it sounds like for 120, to do what they're gonna do is
Yeah.
unreasonable.
Yeah.
Yes.
You want to entertain a motion? I'll make a motion.
Does he-
Yes, sir.
Does he need a
Is that a motion to approve as presented?
Yes.
I'll second.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second from Mr. Ellison. Any other questions or comments? Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes to move forward with emergency repair.
Before-
Accept that bid.
Before JR takes off, can you get, update us on,
JR.
update us on some of
so
the,
high.
can you update us on some of the road projects like the roundabout and
Well-
20, some of the paving that's gonna happen?
There was, we've got about 75% of our paving done in this year's budget. We like a couple more roads getting finished.
Okay.
The roundabout, there was a little confusion on the date, but they're assuring us that it'll be open on 32 up and down Long Lick, next Friday afternoon.
Oh.
And they're paving on, the ends at, 25. They're moving forward, and they're gonna stay on that project until they get it all paved.
So it's kind of, the paving ends 25 at Am Mason area? Is that where it ends towards town?
No.
Isn't there a big paving from Am Mason up on through there?
Well, now, I don't know on state, all that's kind of been put on the back burner towards the.
Gotcha. Oh, it has?
paving,
Even West
yeah.
Main paving?
This is the
out?
bypass section,
Gotcha, okay.
yeah. Where it ties into Cherry Blossom, and
Yeah, okay.
Would you happen to know about the R cut or the J cut or whatever kind of cut it is on?
they're working on it as we speak.
Yeah, I come out of that neighborhood every morning, so,
Haven't heard a finish date or anything on that.
okay.
JR, I want to give you a heads up too. I talked to a fellow, you may have talked to him before, Eric Bentley, about Wright Lane. But
Yes.
I told him I think he's going to send you a letter, and Joe Pat and Rick, because that's his district, and myself, about maintaining and taking it over. But I just want to give you a heads up. You'll probably see that.
Opening back up the old section that we've abandoned.
I think that's what he wants us to do, yes, sir.
Okay, thanks for the heads up.
I told her I didn't know that was very likely, given my understanding of the state he said,
Okay.
but I think he's going to request that.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you, Judge.
Any other, no, thank you, JR. Any other new business or any other questions or comments? If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
A motion, and is there a second?
I'll second.
Second from Mr. Ellison. That's the slowest I've ever had anybody.
We're all waiting on Bill. We thought Bill was
good. All those in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you all for your flexibility. Appreciate you. Be safe. Please adjourn. Thank you.